My brother's wife read his will with a smile on her face. That was the moment I knew something about Daniel's accident didn't add up. She stood beside the closed casket, voice calm, words rehearsed. All assets, including the Brookfield property, the business shares and personal accounts, will be transferred solely to me. No one moved, not a breath in the room. She folded the document like it was just another transaction, not the end of someone's life's work. Daniel and I built that company together. Every contract, every paper, both are named side by side. But the signature on that will wasn't his. Daniel always looped his letters low. This one looked rushed, wrong. I didn't speak. People think funerals are for tears. They're really for lies. When the service ended, Rebecca came straight toward me. Her perfume hit before her words. "Michael," she said softly, "I know this is difficult. Daniel wanted you to understand. He wanted peace between us." "Peace," I repeated. She smiled. "He trusted me to handle everything." That line told me more than she meant it to. Daniel trusted no one with money, not even me. She gave a light pat on my shoulder, long enough to pretend she cared, then turned to talk to the lawyer, waiting near the doors. They stood too close, whispering, both smiling. I walked out without saying goodbye. The air outside felt colder than it should have been. Later that day, I drove to Daniel's house. Rebecca was gone, but her touch was everywhere. Empty shelves, missing files, even the faint smell of cleaning chemicals in his study. She cleared the place like she was deleting him. I opened the desk drawers. Nothing, but under the desk, behind a box of old receipts, I found something wrapped in a cloth. Daniel's old wristwatch. Heavy, scratched, the second hand frozen halfway between minutes. He wore this every day. I turned it over. On the back, a faint mark shaped like the number 7. The weight felt wrong, too solid for a simple watch. I shook it gently and heard a faint metallic click inside. Something was hidden there. Taking souvenirs? Her voice came from the doorway. I hadn't heard her return. "Just some memories," I said. Rebecca leaned against the frame, tilting her head. "He wouldn't want you dwelling on the past, Michael. Let go. It's easier." I forced a smile. "Maybe, but sometimes the past doesn't let go that easy." She left without another word. I sat at Daniel's old desk, the watch heavy in my palm. Something inside it shifted when I moved it, a soft clink like a whisper. I pressed the cracked glass once more. The hands didn't move. That night, I placed the watch on my table and stared at it for hours. Every time the light hit the metal, that strange mark glinted back at me, like it was trying to say something. I didn't know what Daniel was trying to tell me. Not yet, but I could feel it. Rebecca wasn't just lucky. She was prepared. And if she thought the game ended with that, well, she was about to find out I was still playing. The morning after the funeral, I drove straight to Daniel's lawyer's office. The place smelled of old paper and burnt coffee, the kind of scent that hides secrets well. Mr. Cartwright had been our family attorney for years, loyal, quiet, and conveniently forgetful when money was involved. He looked surprised to see me. "Michael," he said, adjusting his glasses, "I thought Rebecca would be handling things now." "She is," I replied, "but I still have questions." He hesitated, then motioned toward the chair across his desk. "Of course." I sat down and placed a little folder between us. When exactly was this signed? He flipped through the papers slowly, pretending to read details he already knew. "It was last Tuesday." "Last Tuesday?" I asked, leaning forward. "That's the day before Daniel's accident." His hand froze for a second. Then he nodded. "Yes, that's right." I could see it, the flicker of unease behind his polite expression. He was hiding something, or someone had told him to. Did Daniel say why he was changing it? Just standard updates. He seemed fine. Fine. The word echoed in my head. Daniel had been planning a trip to expand our business. He was excited, confident. People ready to update their wills don't talk about the future. I stood up slowly. "If I need copies of these documents, I assume I can request them?" He adjusted his tie. "With Rebecca's approval, yes." I nodded. "Then I guess I'll ask her personally." When I left his office, I already knew what he was afraid of: Rebecca. She wasn't just playing widow. She was managing everything like a CO, cleaning up a deal. That night, I sat at my kitchen table again, the same watch lying in front of me. The metal looked darker under the light, almost bruised. I picked it up, turned it over, and stared at that faint number 7 on the back. Something about it felt deliberate. I found an old screwdriver in a drawer and carefully twisted the back cover open. It didn't come off easily. Daniel must have sealed it himself. After a few turns, the edge loosened and the plate slid free. Inside wasn't just gears. Hidden beneath the mechanism was a tiny metal chip wrapped in a thin layer of tape. I pulled out slowly. A flash drive. For a second, I just sat there, holding it in disbelief. Daniel had hidden something where only I would think to look. I plugged it into my laptop. The screen blinked and one single file appeared. Time.mp4. My heart pounded. I opened it. The video was damaged, grainy, and flickering. But it was Daniel, sitting in his study, looking straight into the camera. "Michael," he said quietly, "if you're watching this, something went wrong. Rebecca isn't who you think she is. Don't trust anyone. And if something happens..." The video glitched. The rest of the file turned to static. I replayed it again. Same result. The screen froze at his last words. Don't trust anyone. My hand tightened around the flash drive. Rebecca thought she deleted everything. She was wrong. Daniel left me proof, just not all of it yet. And now, I knew exactly where to start looking. By sunrise, I'd already called an old contact of mine, Ethan Cole, a computer forensics analyst who owed me a few favors from the days when Daniel and I were still building the company. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Bring it over." His workshop sat in the back of a half-abandoned strip mall, full of humming machines and the smell of burnt circuits. He took the flash drive, plugged it in, and squinted at the corrupted video file. "This thing's been tampered with," he said. "Someone wanted it gone but didn't finish the job." I crossed my arms. "Can you fix it?" He grinned. "I can fix anything. Give me an hour." An hour felt like a lifetime. I waited outside, staring at the rain sliding down the windshield of my car, replaying Daniel's face in my mind. The way he looked into the camera, focused, tense, as if he knew he didn't have much time. When Ethan finally called me back in, his expression was serious. "I managed to restore about 70% of the file. The rest is gone, too fragmented to rebuild." He hit play. Daniel's face flickered onto the screen, clearer this time. His voice shook slightly. "If you're watching this, Michael, it means what I feared has already happened. She's changed everything. Our accounts, the ownership papers, even the will. She's not doing it alone. There's someone helping her. A man I can't trust." The audio distorted, then cut. "Can you get the rest?" I asked. Ethan shook his head. Whoever deleted this knew what they were doing. This part was deliberately overwritten. But he clicked through some data fragments. The file was edited from another system. Same IP address as the legal office that handled your brother's estate. The lawyer, Mr. Cartwright. It hit me like a punch. Rebecca hadn't just manipulated the will. She had help. Legal help. I paid Ethan, thanked him, and took the flash drive. He stopped me at the door. "Michael, whatever this is, be careful. Someone tried hard to bury it." "I don't bury things," I said. "I dig." That night, I returned home and replayed the video again and again. Each time, Daniel's face froze just before he said the name. It was like watching someone try to warn me through a wall of static. At one point, I paused on a single frame. His eyes weren't looking into the camera anymore. They were looking slightly to the left, at something off-screen. I brightened the image and zoomed in. There, in the reflection of the bookshelf glass, was another shape, a man's shoulder. Daniel wasn't alone when he recorded this. The realization sent a chill through me. Rebecca had always been ambitious, but she wasn't clever enough to pull off something like this herself. Someone guided her, someone who knew the system inside out. And if that man was who I thought it was, then this wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated theft, planned down to the signature on that paper. I placed a flash drive back into the watch's shell, sealing it the way Daniel had. The faint scratch shaped like a 7 gleamed under the lamp. I didn't know why he marked it that way yet, but I knew what it meant to him. Time to uncover the truth. And from that moment, I decided one thing. Rebecca wouldn't get another second of it. Tomorrow, I'd make my first move. The next evening, I called Rebecca. My voice was calm, friendly, the way you talk to someone you no longer want to fight. Maybe we should sit down, I said. No lawyers, no tension. Just talk. She hesitated for half a second. Then came that rehearsed softness again. That's all I've ever wanted, Michael. Lies always sound sweetest right before they break. We agreed to meet for coffee at the small cafe near the river. She arrived right on time. Black dress, dark glasses, perfectly composed. I could see in her eyes that she believed she'd already won. I'm glad you called, she said, sitting across from me. Daniel would have wanted us to move forward together. I stirred my coffee, watching the reflection of her hand reach for her purse. You mean with the company? She smiled faintly. With everything. You still have your share. Maybe we could rebuild. I almost laughed. She wanted me close. It wasn't guilt. It was control. Keeping the enemy where she could see him. I leaned forward just enough. Daniel trusted you. I want to believe he wasn't wrong. That was my first bait. Her lips twitched, half relief, half victory. He knew how much I loved him, she said, and he'd want you to trust me too. I nodded slowly, pretending to agree, and reached into my jacket pocket. The hidden camera in my phone was already running. By the time I walked to her car, I had 30 minutes of recorded conversation. Harmless small talk on the surface, but the way she avoided details about the will, how she shifted every time I mentioned the lawyer's name. It was all there. That night, I downloaded the footage, saved it, and hid the memory card inside an old book in my study. Then I walked through my house, checking every corner, every window. I set up 2 small cameras, one near the front door, another in my office where I'd placed a watch. If she came looking for something, I'd know, and she did. It happened 2 nights later. I woke up around 2:30 a.m. to the faint creak of the floorboards downstairs. My house was old. Every step had a sound, and I knew each one of them by heart. This wasn't mine. I slipped out of bed quietly, grabbed my phone, and opened the security feed. There she was, Rebecca, moving through the dark like she'd been there before. Dressed in black, no hesitation. She went straight to the study. I watched as she opened drawers, checked under files, then knelt in front of the safe. My safe. Her hands trembled slightly when she turned the dial. She shouldn't have known the code, but she did. Daniel must have told her once. Or maybe she watched him. The safe door swung open and her face changed. Confusion first, then anger. It was empty. I'd moved everything days ago. She stood there for a moment, breathing hard, then muttered something I couldn't hear and slammed it shut. When she turned to leave, she looked straight into the camera, just for a second, like she knew I was watching. I didn't sleep again that night. I just sat at my desk, replaying the footage, watching her movements frame by frame. She wasn't searching for jewelry or cash. She was looking for one thing, the watch. That meant she knew about the secret inside, which meant Daniel had told her something. The question was, how much? By sunrise, I poured myself a coffee and stared out the window. Rebecca thought she was still in control. She thought I was the fool still mourning his brother. But now I had her on tape, breaking in desperate, exposed. And desperation makes people careless. That's when they start leaving evidence. The game had shifted. Now, she was the one being watched. The call came just after noon. I was sitting at Daniel's old desk, reviewing the footage from the night before for the 5th time when my phone buzzed. The name on the screen stopped me cold. Detective Mark Heller. We'd gone to school together before he traded accounting for homicide work. We hadn't spoken in years. Michael, he said when I answered, his voice low and heavy. You still wanted to check that lab request you filed last week? Yeah, I said carefully. You got something? There was a pause. You were right to be suspicious. The test on Daniel's system came back irregular. Traces of digitalis. Not enough to make it obvious, but enough. I didn't breathe for a moment, so it wasn't natural? Let's just say someone wanted it to look that way, he said. And if I were you, I'd keep that between us for now. He hung up before I could ask more. I sat there, staring at the watch on the table. Digitalis. Rebecca's calm, her perfect timing. The rewritten will. Every piece started to fit together like gears in a machine built to destroy. That evening, I drove to Daniel's old house. It was supposed to stay locked until the estate was finalized, but I still had a key. The air inside was stale, heavy with the scent of polish, and something faintly sweet, like old perfume. The rooms were too quiet, too clean, like a showroom version of my brother's life. I went straight to his office. The walls still held faint outlines where his framed diplomas used to hang. His desk was empty except for a few papers Rebecca must have missed. Bank statements, old contracts, an envelope marked personal. Inside were photos, Daniel and Rebecca smiling perfect, until I noticed the dates. The last picture was taken a week before his accident, and his smile wasn't real. I knew that look. Fear. I placed the photos down and reached for the watch again. Something in me said I hadn't seen everything yet. I turned it under the light, tracing the faint scratch shaped like a 7. Daniel's number, his private code for important files. I remembered him saying it once. If it matters, I mark it 7. That's when I realized what he'd done. The flash drive wasn't just evidence. It was one of 7 copies. If Rebecca had destroyed the others, that made this one the last. I decided to protect it the way he would have wanted. I set up a small security camera hidden inside the old grandfather clock in the corner, its gears long dead, but its face still perfect for disguise. Inside, I built a small compartment where the watch and drive would rest, locked behind glass and wood. Before I left, I took one last look at Daniel's study. You planned this. I muttered. You left me a trail. Outside, night had fallen and the street was empty. But as I reached my car, I noticed a shape at the corner, a black sedan parked across from the house. Headlights off, engine running. I waited. The car didn't move. I got in, started my own engine, and pulled away slowly. The sedan followed for 2 blocks, then turned off. When I finally got home, a message was waiting on my answering machine. A woman's voice, calm, careful. Michael, it's Rebecca. I think we should talk again. There are things we need to clear up before the next legal review. I deleted the message without replying. She was getting nervous. That was good. Nervous people talk too much. And when they do, they tell you exactly what you need to know. I waited 3 days before calling her back. Long enough for silence to work its magic. Guilt and fear are slow poisons. They don't kill fast, but they rot judgment. When I finally picked up the phone, my voice was calm, almost gentle. Rebecca, I said, you were right. We should talk. A beat of surprise. Then relief. I'm glad you called, Michael. I've been wanting to fix things between us. Then let's do that, I said. Tonight, at Daniel's house. Just you and me. She hesitated for a moment, then agreed. I spent the afternoon setting the stage. Every light in the study was positioned perfectly. The clock camera hidden inside the cabinet was recording. I moved the watch back to Daniel's desk, exactly where he used to keep it. The house looked untouched, ghostly, like he might walk through the door any second. When the bell rang, I didn't open immediately. I let her wait, standing alone on the porch in the fading daylight. I wanted her uneasy before she even walked in. Michael, she said as I opened the door, smiling too quickly. It's strange being here again. Memories live longer than people. I replied, stepping aside. Come in. She entered carefully, looking around as if the walls might still be listening. The air was heavy, filled with the faint tick of the old clock and the smell of dust. I offered her a drink. She declined. That was fine. I didn't come for small talk. I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit. We'll keep it simple. I don't want lawyers or paperwork between us. Just the truth. Her hands tightened around her purse. The truth about what? I pressed play on my laptop. The video of Daniel appeared, static first, then his face. The one she thought no one would ever see again. Rebecca froze. Her lips parted, no sound coming out. "Michael." "Quiet," I said. "Watch." Daniel's voice filled the room. "She's changed everything. Our accounts, the ownership papers, even the will. She's not doing it alone. There's someone helping her." The video glitched right there, but I didn't need the rest. The color drained from her face. "I don't know what this is," she said quickly. "You're being manipulated. Someone's editing things." I cut her off. "The lab found traces of digitalis in Daniel's system. You know what that means?" Her hand went to her necklace, a nervous habit she couldn't hide. "That's insane. You think I don't think," I said, leaning forward. "I know." She stood up, trying to control her breathing. "You have no proof this video is real. The police won't listen." I smiled faintly. "Who said I was taking it to the police?" Her eyes flickered, just once. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. "You don't want to do this, Michael. You'll lose everything. The company, the house." "Already lost it," I said, "thanks to you." She was silent for a long moment, then let out a short laugh, sharp, ugly. "You think Daniel was perfect? He was ready to cut you out. That's why he changed the will. He told me himself, you were the weak one." I didn't move, didn't blink. She wanted to provoke me, to make me angry enough to slip. But I'd learned how to stay quiet. "Is that what you told him before you poured it in his glass?" I asked softly. Her eyes went wide. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do," I said, standing. "And so does the camera behind you." She turned slowly. The red recording light glowed faintly from the bookshelf. The room went dead silent. Her voice cracked. "What do you want?" "Confession," I said, "preferably on camera." She stared at me for a moment, then smiled again, cold and brittle. "You won't get one." She grabbed her purse and stormed out. The door slammed hard enough to shake the frame. I exhaled slowly, heart pounding. She hadn't confessed, but she didn't need to. The video, her reactions, her fear, it was all there. Now she knew I was coming. And fear makes people clumsy. That was good, because the next time we met, she wouldn't be leaving so easily. The day after our meeting, Rebecca disappeared. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her car gone from the driveway. But people like her don't vanish. They hide behind routine. I waited, watched, and by the third morning, I saw her name pop up on the calendar invite from Daniel's old business email. The address attached was a cafe on the east side, the same one where I'd once met Mr. Cartwright, our family lawyer. I parked across the street long before she arrived. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I watched her walk in, perfectly dressed, perfectly calm. 10 minutes later, Cartwright entered, his briefcase clutched to his chest like it contained his heartbeat. They sat together in the corner booth. She leaned in, whispered something, and slid an envelope across the table. He opened it, frowned, and nodded slowly. I started recording through the telephoto lens I'd mounted on my dashboard. The camera caught everything, their faces, their words, the exchange of papers. When he stood to leave, she touched his wrist and said something that made him freeze. I couldn't hear the audio, but I didn't need to. The look on his face was fear, not guilt. She was threatening him now. When they left, I followed Cartwright first. He drove straight to his office and stayed inside for hours. When he finally emerged, he looked different, paler, smaller. He clutched his briefcase like it contained something poisonous. That night, I went home and played the footage again and again, frame by frame. In one still, when the envelope was halfway across the table, the seal caught the light, a red wax mark, Daniel's monogram. She'd used one of his old folders, the ones we kept for private deals. She was moving the evidence through Cartwright's office, hiding it in legal files no one would question. I sent the video to Detective Heller. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. "Michael," he said quietly, "you realize what you just handed me? That envelope matches the records from the estate transfer. Cartwright filed those forms 2 days before the accident. So he forged them?" I asked. "Either that, or she did it with his login. Either way, we can prove manipulation. I just need something direct. something that ties her to motive. She already gave it to me. I said, "What do you mean?" I baited her last night. She admitted Daniel wanted to cut me out. That means she knew about the will before it changed. He went silent for a second. You're walking a thin line, Mike. If she realizes what you have, she'll panic. Good, I said. I want her to panic. I hung up and sat back, staring at the watch on my desk. The faint mark shaped like a 7 glimmered under the lamplight. I hadn't noticed before, but next to it, etched so faintly it looked like a scratch, were 2 more numbers, 1 and 6. 7:16. I opened the restored video file and scrubbed to the timestamp 7:16. The frame flickered, the sound cracked, and then for a split second, Daniel's voice returned. "Michael," he said, barely audible, "if I disappear, it won't be an accident. Find the one who helped her." Then static. I froze the screen, leaning closer. In the corner reflection of the glass cabinet behind Daniel, there was a shadow, not Rebecca's. Taller, broader. A man in a suit. Cartwright. My pulse slowed. Every piece fit. Rebecca hadn't manipulated the lawyer. She owned him. The next day, I started the final setup. I copied the video, edited nothing, and burned it onto a new flash drive. This one I labeled in black marker. Truth. I slipped it inside the same watch Daniel had used and sealed the back. Then I placed it inside the clock compartment I'd built days earlier. If Rebecca or Cartwright came looking again, they'd find exactly what I wanted them to. The next move was hers, and I was done playing defense. The storm rolled in just before midnight. Thunder pressed against the windows like it was waiting to come inside. Perfect timing. I'd been setting this up for days, checking the cameras, testing the backup drives, locking every door but one. The trap was ready. All it needed now was her. I placed a fake flash drive inside the desk drawer, right where she'd find it if she broke in again. It was labeled exactly as the real one had been, marked in Daniel's handwriting, time.mp4. But instead of confession, the file only held a single video, one I'd recorded myself earlier that day. In it, I sat at Daniel's desk, looking directly into the camera. My voice was steady, low. "Rebecca," the message said, "if you're watching this, it means you couldn't help yourself. You wanted to win one more time. But this time, you walked straight into Daniel's house, and every second of it is on tape. You wanted the truth? This is the truth, yours." I turned off the recording, copied it to the decoy drive, and closed the drawer. Then I waited. At 1:43 a.m., the front sensor triggered. The faint red light blinked on my phone, motion detected. My pulse stayed steady. I didn't rush. I just watched. The feed came alive. Rebecca slipping into the side door, the same one Daniel used to leave open for her years ago. She moved quickly, flashlight off, confident in the dark. She went straight for the study. Her movements were sharper this time, desperate. She pulled open drawers, flipped through papers, until she saw it, the watch on the desk and the flash drive beside it. She froze, then smiled. The expression on her face made my stomach twist. That look of triumph, that same quiet arrogance she'd worn at the funeral. She picked up the drive, turned it over once, then plugged it into her laptop. For a moment, she just stared at the screen. Then she pressed play. My voice filled the room. Her head jerked up, eyes darting toward the camera lens on the wall. She whispered something, a curse maybe, and ripped the drive out, but the damage was done. The footage was already backed up in 3 places, including the live feed I was watching. She spun around, searching the room, panicked now. Her hands shook. She dropped the flash drive, then grabbed it again, clutching it so tight her knuckles went white. That's when the second figure appeared in the doorway. Cartwright. He wasn't supposed to be there. His suit was rumpled, face drawn like he hadn't slept in days. "Rebecca," he said, voice low. "What did you do?" She turned on him. "You told me he wouldn't find anything. You said it was clean. You said..." He stopped mid-sentence when he saw the flashing red light on the wall camera. He knew exactly what that meant. His face went pale. "Oh my God," he whispered. Rebecca grabbed his arm. shaking him. Do something. He pulled away, stumbling back. We're finished. He's recording all of this. She froze again, staring straight into the camera, at me. That's when I stepped into frame, entering from the other side of the study. I'd waited long enough. She turned slowly, her face caught between shock and fury. You looking for this? I asked, holding up the real watch. Her eyes dropped to it instantly. She knew. I placed it on the desk, beside her fake one. Daniel always said time tells the truth. You should have listened. Cartwright tried to back out of the room, but I stopped him with a look. Stay. You want to hear this. Rebecca was breathing fast now, panic turning to anger. You think this proves anything? She snapped. It's just video. You can't touch me. Maybe not, I said, but I don't need to. The detective I spoke to this morning can. Her face fell. She hadn't expected that part. I pointed to the camera light, still blinking. They're watching live. You just gave them everything they needed. For the first time since Daniel's funeral, Rebecca looked scared. Not guilty. Scared. She turned to Cartwright, whispering, Fix it. He didn't move. And for the first time, neither did I. The game was over. I just hadn't told her the ending yet. By morning, the storm had passed, but the air still smelled of electricity and wet asphalt. I hadn't slept. I just sat in my kitchen, replaying the footage again and again, Rebecca breaking in, Cartwright's face when he saw the camera, the panic when they realized it was over. It was everything Heller needed. At 7:12 a.m., I sent the files. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Got them. Don't do anything stupid, Mike. We'll handle it. But I wasn't done yet. Heller wanted arrests. I wanted truth. And truth had to be heard. Not whisper in courtrooms. Not hidden in evidence lockers. It had to be seen the way Daniel intended. That's why I called Rebecca one last time. She didn't answer at first. Then finally, her voice came through, tired, raw. What do you want from me? Closure, I said. Tomorrow's the official reading of the will. Be there. You owe Daniel that much. I don't owe him anything. Then maybe you owe yourself. A long silence. Then, fine. And she hung up. I turned off my phone and sat back. Everything was set. The cameras, the files, the letter I'd written for Heller in case things went wrong. I wasn't planning revenge anymore. I was finishing a promise. That evening, I met Heller in person for the first time since the investigation began. He looked older than I remembered, with a kind of face that carried too many secrets. You're walking into something dangerous, he said, taking a seat across from me. Let's take it from here. This started with me. I said, it ends with me? He sighed, then slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos. Rebecca at Daniel's pharmacy, buying prescription meds she had no business buying. Cartwright depositing money from one of Daniel's business accounts 3 days before the accident. That's motive and proof, Heller said quietly. But your brother's video seals it. Tomorrow, when she walks in there, she won't be able to hide behind legal language. I nodded. That's all I need. When I got home, I checked everything again. The laptop, the flash drives, the external camera linked directly to a secure cloud. The footage from last night was stored 3 different ways. Even if Rebecca set fire to the house, the truth would still survive her. But still, I couldn't shake the sound of Daniel's voice from the video. Don't trust anyone. It played in my head as I packed the watch into a small box, wrapping it in the same cloth I'd found it in weeks ago. The metal felt colder now, heavier. The mark shaped like a 7 caught the light again, a reminder of how far this had gone. Outside, the sky began to clear. Birds started their morning song, mocking the silence inside my house. I poured myself a drink I didn't finish and stared at the old family photo hanging on the wall. Me, Daniel, Rebecca. Smiles that didn't mean what they used to. Somewhere deep down, I wonder if Daniel ever suspected how far she'd go. Maybe he did. Maybe that's why he hid the evidence inside a clock, because he knew she'd eventually run out of time. Just before midnight, my phone buzzed again. A text from Rebecca. Tomorrow we end this. No threats. No apologies. Just 6 words that sounded more like surrender than challenge. I closed the message, placed the phone face down on the table, and turned off the light. Tomorrow wasn't just about Daniel anymore. It was about ending the game once and for all. And when she walked into that room, surrounded by witnesses, lawyers, and the ghost of the man she betrayed, she would finally see that this wasn't revenge. It was judgment. The next morning, the city looked washed clean after the storm. I arrived early at the attorney's office where the will reading was set to happen. The building felt like every other place that dealt in death and money. Polished floors, quiet hallways, polite smiles stretched too tight. They'd set up the main conference room with long tables and chairs arranged neatly in rows. At the far end, a projector screen waited, black and blank. I could see the reflection of my own face in it. Calm, unreadable. I wasn't nervous. That part of me was gone. One by one, people arrived. A few business partners, 2 distant cousins, Cartwright, and finally Rebecca. She walked in wearing gray this time. No bright colors, no sunglasses. For the first time since all this began, she looked tired. Her voice was almost a whisper when she spoke. Is this really necessary? Daniel thought so. I said. She flinched at his name. The attorney cleared his throat. Before we proceed, Mr. Hargrove, I interrupted. There's one more document that needs to be shown first. Cartwright's head snapped up, his face drained of color. He knew what was coming. I took out the small box from my bag, set it on the table, and opened it. Inside was a watch. The metal caught the light, that faint scratch shaped like a 7 gleaming like a blade. This was Daniel's, I said, and this was his message. I connected my laptop to the projector and pressed play. The video started with static. Then Daniel appeared, alive, steady, looking straight into the camera. Gasps filled the room. Rebecca froze. Michael, Daniel's recorded voice said, if you're watching this, it means what I feared has happened. Rebecca changed the documents. Cartwright helped her. They used my trust to take everything. This is my proof. Cartwright tried to stand. That's not admissible. Sit down, I said, not raising my voice. Daniel continued, his words echoing through the room. She thought I wouldn't find out. She thought time would protect her. But time tells the truth. Rebecca's face twisted. This doesn't prove. The video cut to the last segment, one I hadn't seen before. Daniel leaned closer to the camera. Michael, finish it. Make sure she can't erase me. Then silence. Rebecca's chair scraped against the floor as she stood up. You manipulated this, she shouted. You spliced the video. You! Stop. It wasn't me who said it. It was Detective Heller, stepping into the doorway with 2 officers behind him. Rebecca Sloan and Arthur Cartwright. He said, voice like iron. You're both under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and tamper with estate documents. Cartwright's mouth opened, then closed again. Rebecca just stared at me, eyes wide, fury and disbelief mixing into something hollow. You planned this, she hissed. I met her stare. No, Daniel did. As the officers moved forward, she jerked away, shouting, You think this makes you righteous? You think this brings him back? I stood calm, steady. No, but it makes sure he finally rests. They led her out of the room. The door shut behind them with a soft click that sounded like an ending. The attorney sat frozen, staring at the screen. My God, he muttered. I turned off the projector. The room dimmed, quiet except for the soft hum of the laptop. I placed the watch back into its box and closed the lid gently. The ticking inside had stopped long ago, but somehow it still felt alive. Heller approached me. You did what we couldn't. You played her. I nodded once. She played herself. I just let her believe she was winning. He smirked faintly. Justice looks different these days. As he left, I stayed for a while, alone in the silence. I picked up the box, felt its weight, and whispered, It's done, Daniel. Outside, the rain had started again, soft and steady. I stepped into it without an umbrella, letting it run down my face. For the first time in months, I didn't feel anger or grief, just quiet. Rebecca thought she'd taken everything, the business, the money, the legacy. But she forgot one thing Daniel always said. Time is loyal to the truth. And when truth came calling, she didn't stand a chance. I looked down at the watch in my hand, the faint mark glinting beneath the rain. The inheritance was mine again, but the only thing worth keeping was the silence that followed.